Welcome to the Insight podcast. Joining me on the show today is Richard Pomfrett. Richard is the founder of the Stay Safe Initiative and Boys to Men, two projects with the goal of educating and protecting young people and covering topics including anti-bullying, online safety and masculinity. I talked to him about what boys and young men are really struggling with in 2025, whether schools are filled with Andrew Tate wannabes, what actually works when it comes to supporting boys, and much more. Before we start, a quick favour, please hit the follow button wherever you're tuning into this episode. And if you've been listening to the show for a while, I'd really appreciate it if you rated the show too. This helps more listeners discover the podcast and the insights from all of my amazing guests. Right, now for my conversation with Richard Pomfrett. Enjoy. So, Richard, the sense I'm getting from other people, your colleagues that are working in this space of boys, young adults, young men, is that we need to be talking to them more. That it's all very well saying these are the issues, this is what we need to do about it, but who's actually talking to the boys and young men? And I know this is what you are all about, and this is what your work is all about. So maybe we can start there. Like, tell me about the conversations you're having at the moment with boys and young men.
Yeah, so first of all, I completely agree, and you're spot on with your assessment there. One thing that is missing in today's world, certainly with boys, is having conversations. That is the best way we can support young people, and obviously all of my work is focused on that. So obviously our program is called Boys to Men. So we work with boys and young men, and obviously all of our conversations, they are based around them, based around their lives, based around helping them discover themselves, and based around their future. So it's about having healthy conversations to unpick with them in a safe way, and having conversations that this could be the first conversations the first time they've ever had these kind of conversations, getting in them or allowing them to discover who they are, getting them and giving them the freedom to think critically about what it means to be a man. And there isn't an answer to that question. I'm 51 and I still haven't worked it out. And I think that's the point. It's about helping them discover who they want to be, what kind of men they want to be, and where they fall into society. And they're the kind of conversations we're having. And that allows them to understand themselves a little bit better. And also that then has an impact on their conversations and interactions and relationships with others further down the line.
And is that the main thing, one of the main things they're struggling with? Like, what is my place in the world? Who am I serving? What does it mean to be a boy nowadays? And am I having to, I don't know, repress, squash down some of my maybe more natural instincts and tendencies and behaviours because then they're seen as toxic or something like that? And obviously there's some boundaries here that, yes, we want to promote that healthy masculinity. We want to be careful. All that being said, are boys struggling with where those boundaries are and what it means to be a man?
They are. They are struggling with all of them things. They're struggling with their identity. They're struggling to live up to this sort of archetypal version or stereotypical version of what they think a man is. And as I'm sure you can probably guess, most of them thinking that they've got to be a certain way, which usually falls into the big, strong, tough, brave, no emotions, never show weakness, these types of things. And that has an impact. It has an impact on them. It has an impact on their mental health, has an impact on their interactions with others. So, yeah, they are struggling. And they're struggling in lots of other ways as well. I mean, just for your listeners, it's probably a good idea just to give them a little bit of an insight, and pardon the pun there, is the Insight podcast, but give them a little bit of an insight of what we know about boys, certainly within the UK. And obviously data proves this. And this, I read these quotes actually when I start my sessions with boys, and this sort of gives me a good platform to, one, have these conversations moving on, but also it gives them an opportunity to understand what we're about to do over the next few days when I work with them, why it's so important. So is it okay just to read a few things out to you? Because this is what we know. This is what we know about boys and young men in this country. So boys, they underachieve compared to girls in school. They're less likely to go into further education. They're more likely to be excluded from school. They definitely dominate statistics surrounding the unemployed, the homeless. Certainly when we could look at numbers surrounding addiction, drugs, alcohol, things like that, they make up the majority of gang members in the country. And probably one of the most important stats, and you've probably heard this many, many times on your podcast, is that suicide is the biggest leading cause of death for men in Britain under the age of 50. That is a worrying statistic. Falling in that bracket, well, actually I'm 51 now, so I'm just outside, but falling in that bracket, having two sons that fall in that bracket, and lots of the people that I know, friends and family, fall into that bracket, knowing that if you're a man and you fall into that bracket, the biggest risk to your life this year is you taking your own life, is yourself. That just highlights, that's the backstory, that highlights why boys are struggling. Absolutely.
Yeah. Statistics that thankfully I think are now being more talked about and drawn attention to. Sometimes maybe not met with the most sympathetic and compassionate response, though. Sometimes it's like, well, they did it to themselves, and you're just paying the price now. Like I've genuinely seen that kind of response to these statistics. Or, well, if only men talked more, maybe this wouldn't happen. It's like, man, you don't understand, and I didn't understand, of course, until I looked more into it. I didn't understand like just how deep these issues go and how complex they are, and how ignored certain groups of men and boys are. Just completely ignored.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what I try to combat. Yes. Our session, the work that we do with boys is to counter that. It's to give them that space. Saying boys just talk more. Well, you've got to give them that opportunity. You've got to give them opportunity to be interested with them. I think one thing that I found working with young people, and I work with young people in a few different areas, and obviously this is just one of them, is that it's giving them space to talk, but it's also allowing them to know that you actually genuinely care. You are curious, you are interested, and that's also important. It's not just talk, because they may not feel comfortable talking. Who are they talking to? How do they initiate that conversation? It's giving them the opportunity. It's saying to them, I want to learn from you. One thing I do when I work with young people of both genders, of all genders, is to open up these conversations. And it's all about conversation. Doesn't matter what the subject matter is. It's all about conversation. It's finding out what they think. It's finding out what they like. It's finding out what they're struggling with. And the way that I do that is I tell them, I want to learn from you. I'm 51. I'm a dinosaur compared to most of the children and young people that I work in schools. I mean, I've been in the college today working with some young adults. They're still like 17, 18. So I'm not near their age. And I make sure that they understand that I'm not here to tell you how to be a man. I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'm obviously here to guide you, and I'm here to facilitate conversations with you. But I'm also here to learn from you. I want to hear about your life. I want to hear what you find hard and what you're struggling with. And that's the recipe. That gives you then the opportunity to give them what they need, because they're all different. Every young person I work with has got a different backstory. They're all different, and that could be their life at home, what school they go to, what part of the country they live. So it's not about telling them to talk more. It's about saying, I want to listen to you.
Yeah, creating that atmosphere, which maybe is the first time that they've had that. And that's a more refreshing approach than the other approaches that from what I hear, and what I understand after speaking to other guests about this topic, that there are some, people that are going into schools and just telling boys how toxic they are, and just telling them how they need to behave differently, and all the things that are wrong with them. And also they're seeing it in the news, aren't they? They're seeing it on social media, all these different ways. And yeah, we talk about that the boys need to talk more, and yes, that's right. That first approach to make them feel safe, comfortable, trusting enough to talk, but also I feel like they want some guidance as well. They want some like tools. They want some guardrails. They want some like boundaries to understand like what can I do here? And I guess that's where, because of that lack of those things happening for them, and they go out searching for them, then we get in some of the bad actors, and the names that we're hearing about all the time that have come in and filled this void for boys and young men who offer some useful bits of advice in some respects. They talk about, well, take care of yourself and clean up and be responsible and be disciplined and get in the gym and train. And it's like, yeah, those are some useful messages. But then unfortunately it comes along with all these not so nice messages and these misogynist messages or misogynistic messages, and all this other yeah, exactly, that we don't want. And so that's where some of the difficulty lies, isn't it? And so
yeah,
I wonder what sense of that do you get as well? Because if you were to read the news or go through social media, you might think that every college, every school is filled with little mini Andrew Tates all walking around and being disrespectful to every female teacher and coming out with these really awful views. Is that what you're seeing? Is that the case?
It's definitely not the case. No, that's not what I'm seeing, but that's what I'm hearing. So,
right.
It's, you hear things like, oh, we need anti-misogynistic lessons, anti-misogyny lessons, and anti-Andrew Tate lessons. And that's what I hear. I hear people that are worried, that are thinking that boys are, as you said, they feel it, they hear it, they're labelled. Terms like toxic masculinity. Most of the time when boys are mentioned, it's mentioned in a negative light. They're being demonised. They're saying they're a problem. They just need fixing. And that's where all of these sort of like pearls of wisdom come in. Just talk more. Don't do this. Do that. Change this. They need this. They need that. They don't. They need everything. They need to have the opportunity to have these conversations. But definitely, I do not see mini Andrew Tates in schools. Absolutely not. Obviously, boys, in fact, all young people, but for this conversation, they are influenced by what they see online. And that's the fear from the people around them. The fear is they know about these people. They know about people like Andrew Tate, and that's just one name out of trillions of different kind of content that they will be exposed to. So they're worried about this content, and then they make the assumption that all boys are, one, going to turn out like this, or they are going to copy everything that they see. And the problem is, obviously, young people, they are easily influenced, and they will copy certain things. For example, what colour's your Bugatti? Was it your Bugatti or your Lamborghini? I think it was your Bugatti. That was the famous quote made by Andrew Tate. So I hear that all the time. That was in an interview or a podcast he did. What colour's your Bugatti? And so boys mimic these quotes. They mimic what they see online. But it's not coming from a place of hate. It's not coming from a place of disrespect. Quite often they will mimic terms and words and phrases and things that they see online. But that doesn't mean that they're toxic. That doesn't mean that they're harmful. It doesn't mean it comes from bad intentions. But that's where the panic comes from. The panic comes from they are listening and watching and being exposed to that content. So they're all going to turn out like Andrew Tate or others. The problem is they don't, because I talk to them about these people. I ask them, as you just said, I ask them about the pros and cons. I ask them about the good bits. And I hear loads of them. And this is quite confusing sometimes for the adults around them, because, in the past, they were told, don't talk about people like Andrew Tate. When he exploded on the scene, schools were given guidance to do the opposite. I've spoke to children in schools that said, if we talk about him, we'll get told off. we can't mention that name. How can you help people think critically if you don't talk about them? So I obviously, and more people are doing it now, and it's starting to be a little bit more open, but you got to talk about it. And when you do, you realise that actually these kids are switched on. They're not all influenced. They're not all like mini misogynistic predators that are out there being horrible and being aggressive to girls and trying to dominate everyone. They're not like that. They just need that guidance to unpick it all. And, as I said, that's what we do. We hear all the positive sides, all the, as you mentioned, it makes me want to be inspired to work out or get a good job one day and earn money so I can get a Bugatti and tell everyone what colour it is, that type of thing. But the magic happens when you then give them the freedom to explore the opposites. And I wish all the people that are worried or that are labelling boys could be involved in hearing what they say. Because then you get, I don't agree with any of that stuff. I don't agree with what it says about women. I think it's disgusting. I think it's hurtful. I don't agree with all that. But, I think he could be cool sometimes because he's got lots of money, drives fast cars. And that's okay because they're young people. Yeah. And if I was 13 or 14 or 15, I'd be exactly the same. I'd be gravitating to all them rewarding things, all the flashy things. But it doesn't mean I'm a misogynistic person.
No. It's like we underestimate the children's ability to be discerning and to kind of understand that there's two sides of a story and all the complexities, and we just label. But I guess we even see that as adults as well, perhaps, trying to think, I don't know, Jordan Peterson, another polarizing character. Yeah. And, I've got 2 of his books and I enjoy 2 of his books and I've listened to him on podcasts and nodded along and that's such a great message. But then he comes out with this other stuff and I go, oh my, what the F are you talking about kind of thing. But you're almost afraid to say, I quite enjoy Jordan Peterson's book, because then you go, oh, you like Jordan Peterson? How can you like it? Did you not hear what he said about trans people and climate change? It's and I don't agree with that, but I did agree with the other things, and that's okay. I listen to Andrew Huberman's podcast every so often. I've heard some pretty dodgy things about his personal life and sponsors and all this stuff, and it's
me too.
Well, I'm gonna park that and I'm gonna listen to this stuff about getting outside for sunlight and breath work and all the good stuff. And
that's what I try and do with young people. And the thing is, I'm older than you. I'm going to guess that anyway. I've said my age, so I'm probably definitely am older than you.
38 next week. 38 next week for me.
Happy birthday in advance. I'm 51, so I'm quite a bit older than you. But we're coming to this from an adult's perspective, and we can do that. We can look. I'm not going to be influenced by people like Andrew Tate, for example. I can look at content, and that could be listening to a podcast, that could be anyone. And I'm usually listening to that content if it's to see if there's anything that I can take for myself, that I can use as a positive, I can take from it. And that could be advice on, staying in shape, fitness, lifestyle, all the things you just mentioned. It could be how I can improve myself as on a business point of view. But when I'm looking at content, probably similar to you, we're looking at it with that agenda. Oh, is there anything helpful here? And we will be able to go helpful, not helpful. Get rid of that's totally off. I don't agree with that at all. But it doesn't mean I turn off and don't listen. I listen to loads of podcasts and I don't like every single guest, but I'll listen to lots of them because I might get little nuggets in there. Mm-hmm. And it's about helping children do the same. It's about helping them because they are that little bit younger and they may not be at the moment, they may not have them critical thinking skills. Yeah. They may just assume that, because they're saying, if you copy me, you'll be fit, you'll have a six pack, you'll get big muscles, you'll be attractive to girls. And maybe if they get hooked in with that, they may then think, well, actually, if I want to get a girl, maybe I've got to do the other stuff. I've got to dominate that relationship and I've got to control them and I've got to tell them they can't go out with their friends. That's where obviously the potential negative impact comes in. So when I work with kids, that's what it's all about. It's like, can you find the positives, and can you put the negative bits aside? And it's a skill. It really is.
Yeah.
And if you don't give them the chance to do that, they may go off and think, well, I'm agreeing with 50% of it, so I've got to agree with the others, but they don't have to. And again, it's just giving them that freedom to challenge, because it's okay not to agree with everything, whether that's Andrew Tate, whether that's Jordan Peterson, whether that's other people that they see online, and quite often they don't even know who them people are. They're just looking at the messages. Is it something beneficial to you? If it is, latch onto it.
Yeah.
If you disagree,
which is a skill, and we understand that that's a skill, and that younger people will need some help in finding that balance and understanding these messages and being careful. But the only way they're going to learn that is with the conversation. And as you said, if you just shut down the conversation, said, well, no, you shouldn't be, let's not talk about that, don't mention that name. Well, one, you're going to get people to then just, why have I been told not to listen to this person? That makes them even more intriguing. I'm going to listen to them more, and I'm going to rebel against these adults telling me to do this. And well, I mean, I've seen, honestly, firsthand what you just said about, like, we don't talk about Andrew Tate, like we need an anti-Andrew Tate assembly. I've seen that in schools that I've worked at, and it's like, and I was just sat there like, what? Like there's a reason why they're watching stuff about Andrew Tate. Let's talk about it, because it doesn't automatically make these boys evil because they are. We just need to talk about it. And another phrase you said about fixing boys, I think is another really sad thing, because it's funny how when girls are going through something, when there's difficulties that women are facing, it's how can we support them? How can we help them? But it feels like when men are going through something, it's, well, we need to fix them, or they need to fix themselves. It's all on them. And I know that's like a generalization and maybe a bit of an exaggeration, but it does feel like the general sense is we either support this one group or we fix this other group. And it seems like boys just are being told they need to be fixed all the time rather than helped and talked to.
And they feel that, and this is probably what I'm about to share now. I mean, I couldn't be more present day. I heard this today. As I said, I was in the college today working with a group of boys. So they were 17, 18, young men, and we're having all these conversations. And we have all these conversations go down into primary school. Obviously, they change. The conversation is slightly different. They're a little bit more age appropriate, but the narrative and the mission is just the same. And that exact thing come up today when we're talking about our insecurities, our struggles, what we face. One boy or one young man, he said, because we talk about strategies, we talk about, how can we support each other? What could be any potential warning signs? How can we open up the conversation for our friends? How can we give them that lifeline? How can you be that safe person for them? So we talk about strategies and things like that. And this one young man said to me today, we don't get taught this stuff. So obviously they're at college. So they've left secondary school. And he said, we never get taught this stuff, but girls do. And I was like, what? I heard this a few hours ago. I said, what do you mean? He said, well, girls, when they're struggling, they get taught how to share their emotions. They get taught it's okay to wrap around each other and take comfort in it and bond and share and open up and they find it easier than us, but we don't get taught that. We don't get taught how to do it. We don't get taught how to talk. We don't get taught how to share. We don't get taught how to deal with them situations, so we don't know how to. And it was like, wow, and it's, well, we want to change that today. We want to give you the skills, because boys, I mean, them statistics that I read out at the start, certainly in regards to mental health, suicide, boys are going through their journey having all the same issues that everyone has. All the same issues, just if we just look at boys and girls, they're having the same issues as girls. They're having the same worries, they're having the same insecurities, they're having the same struggles. But they think, oh, I've got to cope with it. I've got to deal with it. I've got to lock it down. I've got to hide it. Because if I don't, I'll be seen as weak. And even if I want to, even if I need to, even if I think my friend's a safe person to do that, they may not react. They may not know what to do. They may not know how to help me because we've never had the opportunity to have a conversation about it. And that is sad. And that's what we need to change. We need to give them skills. And that's what I do. So we go through scenarios. We sort of role play certain things. You know, how would you deal with this? How would you say? How would you react if your friend said they're struggling? And that's the sort of things that boys need to hear from each other, not necessarily from me. I'm there to initiate the conversation. And really the sort of magic dust that floats down is when you can then hand that room over to them and they can start talking. They can start asking, what would you do if I broke down in front of you? Because most of them are worried that if I do, my friends will think I'm weak or I'm is it okay to swear?
I know. I think I know what words you're going to use. So I mean, yeah, of course you're free to swear.
This came up today. It says one boy, yeah, my friends will think I'm a pussy.
Yeah.
This is terminology, obviously, that they use. So we address it. And I said, okay, so let's look at that right now then. Let's imagine you was with a mate and your mate's struggling. You didn't know because he's hidden and we all hide things. And they suddenly you're having a conversation and they broke down. What would you do? So I got 4 responses today. One was, well, obviously I'd listen to them. I'd ask him what's up. I'd try and support him. I'd try and comfort him. One boy, young man, and this is one of the quiet ones in the group today. He said, I'd just give him a massive hug.
No.
You know, and that's what boys are. Boys are compassionate. They're loving. They just want that space to be able to do it. And me saying you should do that, it doesn't have an impact. My job is to initiate them to say it. Because then you've got now a group of 12 lads, young adults, young men. Oh, right. Oh, so it's safe to say these things. It's safe. And everyone agrees. Oh, yeah, I'll just give them a big hug. You know, I'd help them. They could cry on my shoulder. All of a sudden, everyone else is now contributing. And them lads have gone away today, and I'm going to be working with them tomorrow. They've gone away today thinking, all right, okay, I don't need to be worried so much. Because everyone in the room said that's what they would do. And that's powerful, I think, and that's powerful.
Yeah. Do you know Theo Von? Do you know the comedian?
Yeah.
And he has a podcast. Have you seen that clip of him and Sean Strickland, the MMA fighter?
Yeah, and I'm a big MMA fan, so yeah, I have.
Oh, really? Oh, nice one. And yeah, I think Sean Strickland has done and said some pretty horrific things.
Outlandish things, would you say?
Yes, exactly. That's one word, yeah. But this one clip when Sean Strickland was on Theo Von's podcast and was talking about his past trauma and what he went through, which was just absolutely horrific, and he's explaining this, and then Theo Von asks him another question, but he can see that Sean Strickland is just like on the verge of breaking down, and then he does, and then he's crying, and Theo Von just goes, "It's okay. I don't have to say anything else. Like, I can just sit with you, man. Like, we don't need to keep talking. Like, what do you want to do?" I can't remember exactly what he says, but it's along that, isn't it? And it's just, it's such a powerful clip of these two butch guys that would obviously take me in a fight, and they like, one is just absolutely breaking down, and the other just gives him the space and the time and just says, "It's okay, buddy. Like, don't worry. Take your time. I'm here. Don't worry." And it's like, oh man, that's kind of how it's done.
And that they're the things that boys and young men need to see, but also that they need to sort of have that opportunity. As I said, that shared that story today. They need to experience that around themselves as well. And I use, I'm a lifelong martial artist, so I've been doing martial arts most of my life, and I always draw on people like that. It could be an MMA fighter, it could be someone, like a boxer or someone that would be deemed that sort of stereotypical tough man, let's say. But, they're not. They're just human like everyone else. And I think with boys, and I've got some clips that I share in my session about fighters interviewing people like Dustin Poirier, people like Paddy Pimblett, people like Max Holloway. I don't show the Sean Strickland content because some of the other things he does say, I don't want to push them to. But yeah, it's like they need to see that. And so, oh, that looks like the stereotypical man, but they have all the same struggles that I do. And hearing it from each other, and obviously we have, through our program, we initiate these conversations, and we have activities to sort of get their insecurities out. It's just so powerful, because they're all sitting there individually with their own issues going on, and they're coming into school and they're going home, they're coming into college, they're going home, they're coming into work and going home, and it's just locked in. It's not going anywhere. But as soon as they get the opportunity to talk about it, tell others what they're worried about, share what they're scared about, share what worries them, they're insecure about, and that could be anything from body image, it could be financial problems, pressure to come in their later life. It just gives them the opportunity, oh no, it's okay. It's okay to be worried and scared. And I can obviously share my life experience with them, say, yeah, I worry about all the same stuff that you worry about, guys. And I've got that life experience, and I may be seen on the outside that I've got it all sorted. I've got a family, I've got a job, I've got a career, but I still worry about all your things that you worry about, and that's fine. It's okay.
Oh, for sure, man. I mean, yeah, preaching to the converted.
Yeah,
about someone that may kind of appear that they've got things sorted out, and social media is very good at giving this front of feeling confident and sure of yourself, and look at all these things that I'm ticking off, like starting a business or getting new PBs, all great, and you don't see the other side where like evenings when feeling very low, very kind of all the confidence has gone out the window. What am I doing? I'm useless. Like, oh, you piece of whatever. It's like, and so it does feel like the allowing those conversations to happen, and to be modeling those kind of conversations, saying like, look, this is how I'm feeling, that's okay. But also I think always with that added, and here's what I'm going to do about it as well. Here's what I know can help me. Like, is it going out for a run? Is it talking to someone? Is it like, right, I need to get a plan here. I need to talk to some kind of mentor, some kind of role model who's gone through this before, and here's some path that I can follow, rather than let's just keep talking about it and going over it and over it and over it. It's like boys, men, but of course everyone, exactly. We all need strategies to get ourselves out of a rut, and not just carry on talking about them like forever.
And we do that. We know that's we talk about like emotions, and we talk about our emotional regulation. We talk about other strategies they could do. That could be doing breath work, doing like you're sitting in a lesson and you're getting anxious about something, you're just about to go into exam, you've got a job interview, sit there for a couple of minutes and do sort of like box breathing. We do like some physical movements with them. I've got like a set of like boxing pads, and because obviously that's my background, so we'll get the boxing pads out, and we'll do sort of hit some combinations on the pads, get that sort of like dopamine going, and get their energy levels up, and giving them like, these are things that can help you and support you in your own life as well. It's not just all about talking. It's self-care is far bigger than that. It's what's your lifestyle like? Go out for a run, do a little bit of breath work, and the boys love it. The boys they love doing it. They love trying it. It just gives them, because they're not listening to Andrew Huberman like we are. They're not listening to these kind of podcasts, most of them. They're just getting their content from Instagram or TikTok. So it's all about, stay in the gym, work hard, don't have a day off, the David Goggins approach. And again, there's a place for all of that, gives a bit of motivation, and I'm going to get out and run, I'm going to listen to this motivational speech. But again, it's giving them other strategies. I've talked to kids about like, oh, have you ever done yoga? Oh, yoga, that's for girls. And I'm like, have you ever tried it? No. Well, okay, should we just move these like chairs out of the way? Let's see if we can hold a pose for 30 seconds. And they're all falling over, they can't do it. And they're like, wow, that's really hard. So again, it's just about opening up other aspects that can support them. It's not just about talking or telling them to think critically or avoid this harmful stuff on the internet. There's a lot more going on, and it's all about supporting them in all areas of their life.
Oh, yoga made a huge difference to me. I'm still touching my toes at 38, and I put that down to yoga and oh man, it's like the calmest I've ever been. The shavasana at the very end,
Yeah.
and always sleep well after a yoga session, and hot yoga especially. Like that is.
I've
just
never done that. I've never done hot yoga.
Oh man.
I've wanted to. I've never been near a place that did it, but I do yoga at home. Obviously, I've done yoga for many years.
At the time, it can be pretty uncomfortable, but the night sleep that you have. What am I trying to say here? How well you'll sleep that night is pretty incredible. So those are all things that we could be doing more of. Is there anything else that we could be doing more of in school, society in general? I mean, maybe we've covered like a lot of the boxes, like safe conversations, trusting conversations, aspects of role models, aspect of like useful tactics, approaches that people can take. Is there anything else that you'd love to see more of in schools?
Yeah, we've obviously covered lots of it, and again, it's all about these having these conversations. It's not talking to boys or anyone. It's bringing them into the conversation. It's asking them what they think. It's being curious. All of these things. One thing that I do, and sort of I promote to do this following working with boys, is there's a lot of pressure on young people of how they think they should be around the opposite sex. So that's where these sort of things get deemed as, inappropriate behaviour, classified as sexual harassment, or you're misogynistic. Lots of times it's just they're working it out, and they're not. They sometimes they think they've got to do or say a certain thing, but they get it all wrong. And just to put a bit of context in this, just to go again, and we're in real time here. Something came up again today when we was talking about emotions. Some lad said, "Oh, I've heard this study. I saw this on the internet. I heard this study that if you cry in front of a girl, they get turned off. They don't like you." And I'm like, "Really? Where'd you hear that?" He said, "Oh, yeah, no, it's a study. It's a true thing." And I was like, did you fact check it? Did you, obviously it just turns out he's just seen a quick clip of someone saying, if you cry in front of a girl, she'll get turned off. She won't like you and you'll lose her as a girlfriend. Obviously we had a chuckle and we talked about it. But that brings us up onto what I'm about to say, is that when I work with schools, I say, look, we've had all these conversations. What we now want to do is we now want to bring the rest of the school into this conversation, because I'm only working with small groups and it's like a designated year group. I said, now what we want to do is we want to bring all of your young people into the conversation. So I promote these 2 questions with schools. And I say, look, if you've got the opportunity, set up like a Google form, something that you can send out to all your students. It's generally secondary schools for this. And ask your students one question. Ask the boys one question, ask the girls one question. And it's a simple question. And that is, ask all the boys, what's one thing you wish girls knew about you? That's it. And ask girls the same. What's one thing you wish boys knew about you? Gather that data and then choose a few of your pupil council, student council, mentors, whatever you've got in school. Get them to run a little bit of an assembly on it and get them to shine a light on the other half of the school, basically. And I think that's amazing. And I've heard it's been amazing from schools because it breaks down this confusion. Boys thinking, well, I've got to act like this because otherwise I won't be attractive or I won't get a girlfriend. Girls thinking, well, I've got to act like this because otherwise this boy won't be interested in me. And sometimes that can take them off in the wrong direction, doing things they don't feel comfortable with, doing things that are inappropriate, doing things that maybe label them as a misogynistic or, harassing. And yeah, if you've got any listeners that work in the school, do it. It's a great way of just like opening up that dialogue and applying a bit of context to everyone's life in school. Because all the boys realise that actually the girls, one of the most common things that I hear is girls will say, I wish boys would act like they do when we're on their own with them. I wish they'd just act like that when there's other people around. Do you get that? It's like yes. When we're one-to-one, they're always really nice and kind, but as soon as their mates turn up, they turn into fill in the blank, what you want to use. They turn into idiots. And that's powerful when boys hear that. So, oh, actually, no, that if I tried to try to do that a little bit more, that may help me. And then the boys will say things like, I wish girls knew that we had feelings. I wish girls knew that we worried about stuff. I wish girls knew that we don't know all the answers and we don't always want to be in charge. And again, it just breaks down some of these barriers. And then, they can then go off and have these conversations and joke about them with their friends. And I just think it's a good way of having that healthy debate in school.
Well, I feel like adults need to have those surveys as well, so that we can make it clear.
That's a good point.
Because I still don't know what girls are thinking. Well, women. I still don't know what women are thinking nowadays in 2025.
Ask them.
But no, that.
Ask them. The next time you have a conversation with women, say, "What's the one thing you wish men knew about you?"
Yeah, I'll try that on my next date. Yeah, I'll open with that one maybe.
Yeah.
See how that one goes down.
Yeah, you can. Let me know how you get on.
I will. But that is funny that, what you mentioned about the boys, how they all act when they're just one-on-one with a girl, which I imagine is probably very kind of like doting and maybe cuddly and maybe like emotional and open and that. But of course, in a crowd, you're trying to maintain some kind of status, aren't you? And exactly.
Yeah, and I get it. That just all comes down to their insecurities, and we all do that in some degree. We have to be really comfortable to not do that. But again, it's just like, if you realise that's not a requirement, then over time, I think that was actually quite easy, and it doesn't happen without them sort of initial check-ins and conversations, really.
Yeah, and to start to maybe to wrap up the conversation, is there things that you'd like to be seeing less of in schools? I mean, again, we've maybe touched a lot of them and covered a lot of them, but is there anything else that is kind of the things that you are seeing or hearing about and you're like, why is that happening? That's not the approach that we should be taking.
I think you're right, we have sort of gone over it, but I think less of is not making assumptions of what people want. Let's just move away from boys just for this, make assumptions of what young people want. Look at what happened after that adolescence show, everyone coming out with all sorts of ideas of what young people need, but no one's asking them. So less assumptions, more conversations, more asking them what they feel they need, and then being proactive on that. And that's the thing. Most schools, they want, and I get it. Like, I work in schools all the time. You was a teacher in the past, is that correct, Sam?
Yes.
So they deal with a lot of stuff, and they quite often are trying to put out fires daily. They're trying to address things daily, and obviously that then can cloud their judgment on the best approach. And I get it. It's hard. They've got a lot to deal with, and it's very, very complex. But if we took just a step back and just talk to young people, what do you need? What do you feel about this? Why are we hearing this? And then the adults in the room can think, okay, how can we, because they will have that more life experience, what kind of strategies can we put in place for them? So more asking them and less of telling them what they need, I think would be a good start.
Nice. And this is a message that I've heard from others as well. It's a message I've heard from Sophie King-Hill, who I know you know as well, and Catherine Nibbs as well. Like, all these people, these past guests that have come on the show and saying, like, we need to be talking more to young people. Shock horror. We need to be talking more to young people and not just dictating to them what the best thing for them is.
Absolutely. And that's where the magic happens. It really does. And then you realise, as I said, I have that approach. Teach me. I want to learn from you. I've got a little bit more life experience. I may be able to navigate what we're going to talk about now and guide you. But I want to know from you, what are you struggling with? What do you find hard? And then we can all talk about it. And that's the way that you help them. That's the way.
Nice. Well, yes, this has been refreshing to hear. It's great to see someone in this space doing such excellent work. So, thank you for that. Thank you for coming on the show today, for your time. I really appreciate it.
No, it's been a pleasure.
I wrap up with 3 quick-fire questions.
Okay.
If you've got time for those.
Absolutely. Go for it.
Excellent. So the first one is, what's one lesson you wish you'd have been taught when you were a child?
One lesson, I probably wouldn't have listened. That's my honest answer. One lesson. I think probably, because I can't actually think of a lesson, I'm going to be honest, but I think I could probably say that maybe that how the lessons have been taught. I think that would have had a little bit more of an impact. I mean, we've just been talking about the best approaches to help young people. So maybe not necessarily what I've been taught, maybe how it's been delivered, and I've obviously been told as a young people to do this, to do that, and I probably haven't done lots of it. But maybe if the way that it was taught was delivered in a different way, as we've just spent the last sort of 42 minutes talking about, maybe how it's been delivered I would have changed that. So that's what I try and do, obviously, as we just mentioned.
Nice. Next one, is there a habit that you have added to your life, or a habit that you've got rid of that's helping you feel happier and healthier?
Do you want one of each?
You can do.
Okay,
or just whichever's the most impactful, I guess. Perhaps.
Yeah, so I suppose they're combined together. So one thing I've tried to reduce and actually cut out is alcohol consumption. I've never really been a big drinker, but I would from time to time have sit there with a glass of wine or whatever. I have tried to reduce alcohol in the last sort of year, I would say, and make a really conscious effort that I will drink alcohol, but it would have to be like going out on an occasion. I've tried to cut that out, and the main reason why I've tried to cut that out is to improve like recovery, sleep. So that's what I've introduced is my self-care in that regard, is like getting good sleep. You mentioned sleep earlier, getting good sleep, and trying to make myself a little bit more of a healthy person, and doing all the crazy things that Andrew Huberman says, ice baths, saunas. Yeah, I'm big on that. That's like a bit of a joke in my house. It's like, oh, what's Dad doing now? Whether it's like going to bed with like nose strips on, taping my mouth up, I'm wearing eye masks. I mean, my wife, she just, she's always making fun of me for that. Like, how many more contraptions are you going to put on your face when you go to sleep? And doing saunas and ice bath and things like that. But that, I mean, it's not a myth. It works, and I feel better for it. It makes me get a better night's sleep, makes me feel more refreshed and recovered. So yeah, that's the sort of things I've introduced and getting rid of the alcohol a little bit.
All for that, a bit of self-experimentation. Yeah, I love it. I sleep with an eye mask as well, so I'm with you, mate. Don't worry.
Yeah,
don't worry.
No, it's good.
We can, we'll set a new masculine standard of eye masks at night. It's perfectly acceptable to wear an eye mask at night.
It is.
I love mine. Makes a difference. And last question is, what's one, if you could give everyone in the world one book, which book would you give them?
Okay, so one thing that didn't come up in this conversation is I'm dyslexic. So I'm not a reader and I don't read books. I'm a listener and I listen to lots of books and I listen to lots of podcasts. But
what audio book would you send to everyone?
But I'm going to come from a different angle with this. I'm going to pay this,
go for it.
I'm going to pay this question forward. Now, the reason why I'm on this show, Sam, you mentioned her earlier, is you recently had a conversation with a good friend of mine, Kath Nibbs. Is that correct?
Yes.
And I believe it was her having a conversation with you that dropped my name into the conversation, and then you reached out. So Kath's a really good friend of mine, and we both work in a similar field through the online world. So I'm going to pay this question forward. If I could give everyone a book in the world, it would be one of Kath's books. One of Kath's books. She's created lots of books. She's an author of lots of great books, all around sort of cyber trauma and helping children be safe online and guides for parents. And actually, if everyone in the world bought her book, maybe she'd give me a little bit of that money. So, So I'm going to recommend her books. 10%
commission.
I'm going to recommend her books because that's the reason why I'm here today. Thanks to her. And hopefully she'll get a few book sales out of it. Check her out, Kath Nibbs.
Nice. Right. I see the plan that's going on behind my back with all my guests. They're all trying to just sell each other's books and courses and stuff.
I'll put the invoice soon, Kath.
That's what we're all about. It's all good. No, nice. Right. Well, Oh, well, one last thing. Where can people find you? Where can people connect with you, Richard, and find out more about the work that you're doing? And yes, lots of listeners do work in schools, teachers, TAs, head teachers. So yeah, if they're interested in what you do. Yeah,
so LinkedIn is probably the easiest place to reach me on a personal level. So my name, Richard Pomfrett. If you're just listening or you haven't got my name to hand, it's Richard. Pomfrett is POM for mother, FRETT. So you can find me on LinkedIn. That's where we promote all of our work. You'll see our day-to-day goings and what I'm up to. We've got 2 websites. So you can find me on the Stay Safe Initiative, all one word, .org.uk, and that will take you to the work that I do with schools in regards to online safety. I do lots of work around bullying, friendships and relationships, and we do lots of peer mentoring training, and we work with staff and parents as well with them topics. So you can find our work there, and our work specifically for boys and young men, our Boys to Men program. Our website is boys with a Z -men.org.uk, and that will give you an insight into our programs of what we do. We've got programs running from primary all the way through into further education. So, and from them websites, you'll find our other links, Instagram and stuff like that. But yeah, LinkedIn and the websites will probably be the easiest ones.
Nice one. Brilliant. Well, thank you again for your time. Really appreciate that. And yeah, looking forward to staying connected.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's been a great conversation. Thanks for the invite, Sam. I've really enjoyed it. Take care. You're doing a great job.
You're welcome. Cheers, Richard. Thank you.
Thanks, mate.
Thank you for tuning in. I really hope you found my conversation with Richard insightful. If you did enjoy the episode, please share it with friends, family and colleagues who you think would find it interesting too. And don't forget, you can also support the podcast by following and rating the show on whichever app you're listening on. Thanks again, and I look forward to bringing you another episode soon.